There is no question that a child in conflict with the law should be treated differently from an adult. Since the Children's Charter of 1908, the system of criminal justice for children in England and Wales has been underpinned by the welfare principle. This principle states that any sentence imposed on a child must factor in their best interests and the need to prevent future offending. These needs could vary depending on a huge number of factors, such as poor mental health, problems at home, neglect and abuse, drugs and alcohol, problems with learning at school, or exploitation by others. But what happens when a child turns 18? The Lord Chief Justice observed in the landmark judgment of Clark that turning 18 does not represent a cliff edge. Full maturity and all the attributes of adulthood are not magically conferred on young people on their 18th birthdays. Experience of life reflected in scientific research is that young people continue to mature, albeit at different rates, for some time beyond their 18th birthdays.
I'm 29 years old. I've been involved in the criminal justice system since I was 12, 13. At age 11, when I went to secondary school, I discovered that I had ADHD and dyslexia. And of course, through the things I did experience as a child, I found a lot of things difficult, sitting still, spelling, reading. As I turned 18, none of these problems seemed to disappear. They just got worse and multiplied.
Dr. Laura Janes and Garry Green are lawyers who have extensive experience of working with young adults. They know the dangers of conferring adulthood onto young people at an early age all too well.
I think it's important to recognise that because young adults are still developing, they still require a certain amount of care and attention. It's important to listen and appreciate that they still suffer the sort of vulnerabilities that may be more apparent with younger defendants in, for example, the juvenile courts.
At the Howard League for Penal Reform, we work with children and young adults in the criminal justice system. One of the great joys of my job as legal director there is getting to know young people and watching them change, develop and mature. But it very rarely happens until their mid-20s. Everything we know about young adults, their lived experiences and how they behave tells us they must be treated as a distinct group in the criminal justice system.
An influential panel of MPs in Parliament has just called out for this type of distinct approach when it comes to dealing with young people who enter the criminal justice system.
The Justice Committee did 2 inquiries into the way we treat young adults in particular in the criminal justice system, because we were aware of growing concern that the arrangements we currently have weren't serving the very complex needs of that cohort of younger people. It didn't recognise the way in which they mature. It didn't recognise the multiplicity of issues and challenges which often underlie and underpin their offending. Our inquiry clearly found that young adults need a distinct approach within the criminal justice system and a distinct staff and programmes tailored to their needs.
There is now a clear legal precedent and guidance that requires a different approach when sentencing young adults.
The Lord Chief Justice made it plain that the emotional and developmental age is as important as the biological age, and that is key. 18 to 25-year-olds are still growing up. Many of them are still heavily influenced by peer pressure. Many of them are still emotionally extremely immature. Many of them are still changing and are capable of changing and moving away from crime. And many of them will find a custodial sentence very difficult to cope with because of their immaturity.
I personally think that everyone's different, everyone's built different, everyone's DNA is different, so I think everyone should be treated different because not two humans in this world is the same. I've had a bad upbringing, but doesn't mean I have to have a bad future.
Young adults aged between 18 to 25 are wired differently and have different needs from older adults. The justice system has recognised this, but we all need to play our part in making sure that in every case, the distinct needs of young adults are known, understood, and taken into account in decisions that affect them.